Awakening the beast. They called us primitive. They called us soft. They called us prey. They were wrong. Humanity's expansion into the stars began with hope and wonder. Our colony ships spread through the solar system and beyond, carrying the best of us. Scientists, engineers, dreamers. We weren't warriors. Not yet. When we discovered the hyperspace gate orbiting Neptune in 2157, it opened pathways to distant stars we only glimpsed through telescopes. Within decades, human settlements flourished on 12 worlds across 3 star systems. The first alien ship we encountered belonged to the Krell Empire. Their vessel dwarfed our largest cruisers, a gleaming construct of impossibly smooth metal that shifted colors like oil on water. The diplomats they sent wore ceremonial armor that seemed more decorative than functional. Tall, reptilian beings with 4 arms and scaled skin that shimmered under artificial light. We welcome humanity to the galactic community, their ambassador Shal Kryn had announced through translation devices. His secondary arms performed intricate gestures that our xenolinguists interpreted as respect. Your adaptability and resourcefulness are remarkable traits. No one noticed how his inner eyelids flickered when he said remarkable. No one recognized the subtle movements of his throat sacs that, in Krell body language, indicated predatory anticipation. For 2 years, we traded with them. They offered limited technology, medical advances, agricultural improvements, but never weapons or starship drives. We provided art, music, literature, and access to our colonies for cultural exchange. The Krell introduced us to 3 other spacefaring species, the crystalline Vetrax, the gaseous Murini collectives, and the insectoid Threk hives. All seemed cautiously welcoming. All were lying. The attack came during Earth's Unity Day celebrations. Synchronized strikes hit every human settlement simultaneously. On Proxima Centauri, colony domes ruptured, exposing 50,000 people to the toxic atmosphere. On Europa, drilling platforms collapsed into the subsurface ocean, drowning the researchers below. On Mars, dust storms filled with nanoscopic razors shredded through environmental suits and flesh alike. And on Earth, beautiful, blue Earth, orbital platforms turned their mining lasers planet-side. New Beijing, Lagos, Sydney, Delhi, all vaporized in seconds. 3 billion dead in the first hour. The Krell Emperor's message broadcast on all human communication channels. Your species is young and dangerous. Your potential unchecked would destabilize the galactic order. This unfortunate culling is necessary. The survivors will serve productive roles in our society. Admiral Helena Chen watched the message from the bridge of the UES Defiant, hidden behind Titan when the attacks began. Tears streamed down her face, freezing in the failing life support systems of her damaged vessel. "Status report," she whispered. 73 surviving ships confirmed across all systems, her XO replied, voice hollow. Maybe 12 million survivors total, scattered across asteroid bases and the outer colonies. Chen stared at the tactical display, showing the overwhelming alien forces. The Krell ships outnumbered them 20-1. With technology centuries beyond human capabilities. The other alien species had contributed their own specialized weapons. Vetrax crystal ships that could refract energy weapons, Murini gas clouds that infiltrated human systems, Threk hive vessels that released swarms of fighter drones. It should have been over quickly. We were outnumbered, outgunned, with no central command, and no hope of reinforcement. But they made a critical error. They thought humanity would surrender. They thought we would accept defeat. They didn't understand what they'd awakened. On Venus, Dr. Ashok Patel watched his research station burn. As the only survivor, he salvaged what he could from the ruins, his experimental nanite medical technology designed to repair human tissue. Within weeks, he'd reprogrammed them to consume Threk kitten instead. The first Threk landing party on Venus stepped from their ships into a swarm of invisible machines that devoured them from within. In the asteroid belt, mining engineer Carla Rodriguez rerouted the automated drilling rigs to attack Vatrax's crystal ships. The crystalline aliens shattered when exposed to the specific harmonic frequencies her drills generated. On Titan, Marine Sergeant Marcus Williams led his squad against a Krell ground force 10 times their size. They couldn't match the aliens in direct combat, so they didn't try. Instead, they used the methane lakes as traps, luring Krell units into ambushes where a single spark would ignite everything for kilometers. None of these were coordinated efforts. There was no central strategy. Just desperate humans using what they had, doing what they could. Admiral Chen gathered the surviving ships at Proxima Centauri. "We fight differently now," she told her captains. "Forget honor. Forget rules of engagement. They wanted war. We'll show them war." Human ships began hit-and-run attacks, refusing standard battle formations. When Krell commanders expected surrender, they received suicide runs instead. When they predicted retreat, humans burrowed into asteroid fields and laid traps. The first major victory came at the Battle of Proxima Centauri. 47 human ships faced a Krell battle group of over 200 vessels. The aliens expected to crush the last organized human resistance. Instead, Chen had prepared a trap. For weeks, human engineers had been modifying the hyperspace gate. When the Krell fleet assembled for their final assault, Chen gave the order: "Initiate Operation Prometheus." The gate activated, but instead of creating a stable wormhole, it collapsed in on itself. The resulting gravitic shear tore through the Krell fleet, destroying or disabling most of their ships. The human vessels, positioned at the calculated edge of the effect, suffered damage but survived. In the aftermath, human boarding parties seized partially intact Krell vessels. The alien technology was dissected, analyzed, improved upon. Krell prisoners revealed crucial information, some willingly, most not. Chen stood on the bridge of her new flagship, a captured and modified Krell dreadnought renamed UEA's Vengeance. The alien metal had been crudely retrofitted with human components, giving the vessel a patchwork, almost feral appearance. Gone were the smooth lines and aesthetic beauty of Krell design, replaced by exposed weapon systems and additional armor plates. "We've learned something interesting," her intelligence officer reported. "The Krell attacked us because their predictive models showed humanity becoming the dominant species within 3 centuries. They feared us." Chen's laugh was devoid of humor. How prescient of them. 6 months after the initial attack, the remaining human forces had transformed. Their ships were now augmented with stolen technology, their tactics unpredictable, their soldiers enhanced with Dr. Patel's repurposed medical nanites that accelerated healing and increased physical capabilities, and they had stopped taking prisoners. The Mareni were the first to experience humanity's new approach to warfare. Their gaseous forms had always made them difficult to fight conventionally. Humans adapted by developing atmospheric processors that could identify and solidify Mareni molecular structures. The resulting crystalline forms were shipped back to human labs for study and, eventually, weaponization. "They expect rules," Chen told her war council. "They expect limits. We have none left to give." A Vatrax diplomatic vessel approached under a flag of truce 1 year into the conflict. Their crystalline ambassador vibrated tones of peace and reconciliation. "The Krell missiled us," the Vatrax claimed. "We did not understand their true intentions. We seek an end to hostilities." Admiral Chen, now General Chen of the United Human Defense Force, listened impassively. When the Vatrax finished, she stood and walked to the viewport overlooking Earth, now a scared, partially molten ruin. "You helped them," she said quietly. "You knew what they planned." "We were afraid," the ambassador began. "So are we," Chen interrupted. "Afraid we might show mercy. Afraid we might remember who we were. Afraid we might stop." She turned to her officers. "Deploy the resonance weapon." The Vatrax ambassador's crystalline body vibrated in panic. "Please, we offer reparations, technology, worlds." "We're taking those anyway," Chen replied as guards dragged the alien from the room. The resonance weapon, derived from Carla Rodriguez's mining discovery, was deployed against the Vatrax homeworld the following day. The entire planet's crystal forests, cities, and inhabitants shattered simultaneously. 5 billion Vatrax died in minutes. When news reached the other alien worlds, true panic began to spread through the galaxy. The humans weren't fighting like any species they had encountered before. There were no attempts at territory control, no occupation of conquered worlds, no demands for surrender, just calculated destruction followed by withdrawal. And always they kept adapting, incorporating captured technology, developing countermeasures, evolving their tactics. The Threk Hive Queen sent an emergency communication to the Krell Emperor. They are not fighting a war. They are exterminating us as we sought to exterminate them. They cannot be reasoned with. They cannot be stopped. The Emperor, watching footage of human shock troops tearing through his palace guard with modified Mirani phase-shifting technology that let them walk through walls, finally understood. They had tried to cull the potential threat. Instead, they had created their own extinction, and humanity was just getting started. The galaxy's nightmare. 3 years into what the aliens now called the human vengeance, the balance of power had shifted completely. General Helena Chen died during the siege of the Krell homeworld, not in glorious battle, but from radiation poisoning contracted months earlier during a raid. Her successor, Colonel Ilara Kane, represented a new generation of human leadership, officers who had never known peace, who had grown up in the shadows of war. Kane had been a civilian scientist before the attack, a xenobiologist who once dreamed of peaceful contact with alien species. Now her body was enhanced with military-grade nanites, her right eye replaced with a neural-linked targeting system, her once gentle hands now cybernetically augmented for both delicate laboratory work and combat. General Chen fought to make them pay, Kane told the assembled officers at her promotion ceremony. The event took place in orbit around the smoldering remains of Krell Prime, their homeworld now reduced to a radioactive wasteland. I will fight to make them kneel. The human fleet had grown from the Ragdig survivors to over 500 vessels. Many captured and modified alien ships, others built in hidden asteroid factories using stolen technology. What they lacked in uniformity and elegance, they made up for in sheer, terrifying effectiveness. Each human ship bore unique modifications reflecting the personal vendettas of their crews. Some installed Threk carapace plating over vital systems. Others used crystallized Mirani as focusing lenses for their weapons. All featured makeshift shrines, memorials covered with images of Earth and the lost colonies. But the most feared human innovation wasn't technological. It was psychological. Project Nightmare, Kane called it. Using captured communications technology, human ships now broadcast on all alien frequencies before attacking. The transmissions contain nothing but sounds. Human children crying, the roar of cities burning, the screams of dying aliens recorded from previous battles, all overlaid with a low-frequency pulse that triggered fear responses in most alien nervous systems. The effect was devastating. Entire defense fleets broke formation at the first hint of these broadcasts. Battle-hardened Krell commanders committed suicide rather than face human boarding parties. They tried to exterminate us because they feared what we might become, Kane said during a strategy session. Let's show them their worst fears weren't nearly frightening enough. The Mirani were the next to fall. Their gaseous collective consciousness had always made them difficult to destroy completely, until humans developed atmospheric processors that could identify and solidify their molecular structures. Kane personally oversaw the deployment of these processors across Mirani space. Please, the Mirani consciousness pleaded through translation systems. We are not individuals like you. Our entire species experiences this suffering together. Billions of minds connected in pain. Then you understand us perfectly, Kane replied, her artificial eye recording the solidification process for broadcast to other alien worlds. This is what Earth felt. The surviving alien powers, primarily the remnants of the Krell military and several previously neutral species, formed the Galactic Defense Coalition. For the first time in known history, ancient enemies united against a common threat. Humanity must be contained, announced Supreme Commander Vorlak of the Coalition forces, a grizzled Krell veteran who had lost 2 limbs to human attacks. Not for vengeance, but for survival. They have become something more dangerous than any natural evolution. They have become the perfect predators, shaped by the crucible of our own mistake. The Coalition assembled the largest fleet ever recorded, over 2,000 capital ships and countless support vessels from 17 species. Their target was Castrian 9, a former resort world that humans had claimed as their forward operating base. Kane received the intelligence about the gathering fleet with something almost like relief. "They're finally working together," she told her staff. "They're learning." "Should we evacuate Castrian 9? Her logistics officer asked. Kane's smile didn't reach her eyes. "No, we're going to make it a lesson they never forget." When the Coalition fleet arrived at Castrian 9, they found minimal orbital defenses and disabled communication relays. Cautiously optimistic, they established a blockade and prepared ground forces for occupation. That's when the nightmare truly began. The surface of Castrian 9 had been transformed. Every city, every structure had been converted into an interconnected trap. Coalition ground forces found themselves in a maze designed by human military engineers who had studied alien psychology, physiology, and tactics for years. Streets that appeared empty concealed motion-triggered explosives calibrated to each species' unique movement patterns. Buildings collapsed in precisely calculated ways to crush advancing troops while leaving escape routes for human defenders. Water supplies were tainted with compounds that caused hallucinations specific to each alien biology. And everywhere, humans fought with a savage intelligence that defied conventional military doctrine. They didn't hold positions. They created killing zones, lured enemies in, decimated them, and disappeared through hidden passages. They didn't establish command centers. Leadership rotated constantly, making decapitation strikes impossible. After 2 weeks, the Coalition had lost 40% of their ground forces and gained nothing. Commander Vorlak ordered a tactical retreat, planning to bombard the planet from orbit. That's when Kane sprung the real trap. Hidden shipyards in Castrian 9's moons activated, launching hundreds of unmanned drone ships directly into the Coalition fleet. Each drone carried a single weapon, a modified version of the hyperdrive collapse that had won the Battle of Proxima Centauri years earlier. The resulting spatial distortions tore through the Coalition armada. Ships were crushed, stretched, or simply vanished into artificial singularities that winked out moments later. The destruction wasn't total. Kane had made sure of that. She wanted survivors. "This is General Ilara Kane of the United Human Defense Force," she broadcast to the crippled Coalition fleet. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. "You came here with 2,000 ships to eliminate what you considered a threat. Look around you. Observe what remains." The surviving alien commanders watched in horror as human ships emerged from hiding places throughout the system. Inside hollowed asteroids, beneath gas giant cloud layers, from disguised positions on planetoids. "We could have destroyed you all," Kane continued. "Remember that. We chose not to. This time." The Battle of Castrian 9 marked the effective end of organized resistance against humanity. What followed was not peace. Humanity wouldn't accept mere peace, but something like an armed truce. Kane established the Terran Protectorate, a buffer zone around human-controlled space that no alien vessel could enter without permission. The penalty for violation was immediate destruction. Beyond this zone, human ships roamed freely, inspecting alien worlds and installations without warning or permission. 5 years after the initial Krell attack, Kane addressed the First Galactic Conclave, a gathering of representatives from all surviving spacefaring species. The meeting took place aboard the UES Memento Mori, Kane's flagship built from the salvaged remains of the Krell Emperor's personal vessel. The alien representatives sat in uncomfortable chairs designed for human anatomy, breathing air mixed to Earth standards that left many of them dizzy or nauseous. The message was clear: adapt or suffer. Some of you wonder why we haven't simply exterminated your kind. Cain began without preamble. The technology exists. The capability exists. The motivation certainly exists. She paced before them, her cybernetic eye scanning each alien representative, projecting their species' casualty numbers onto her retinal display. We've chosen a different path, not out of mercy, that died with old Earth, not out of some moral high ground. That luxury belongs to victors who can afford it. We've chosen this path because true vengeance isn't quick. True justice isn't painless. Cain gestured to a viewport showing the vast human fleet surrounding the station. You will live with what you've created. You will remember, every day, that the primitive species you tried to exterminate now holds your existence in its hands. You will adapt to our demands, our inspections, our presence in your systems. You will teach your children about the price of aggression. You will build monuments to Earth on every world. And you will never, ever forget. The new galactic order took shape in the following decades. Human technology advanced at an alarming rate, incorporating and improving upon alien designs. Human populations recovered slowly in heavily fortified colonies, and human military vessels patrolled trade routes, enforcing regulations that always favored Terran interests. Most disturbing to the alien species was how humanity began to split into factions. Some, like Cain's protectorate, maintained the hardline approach. Others, calling themselves reclamationists, sought to recover humanity's lost compassion. Still others, the ascensionists, pursued technological advancement to transcend biological limitations altogether. An unpredictable, fragmented humanity proved even more terrifying than a unified, vengeful one. Coalition analysts could no longer predict human actions or responses. 50 years after the initial attack, an alien child, a young Krell whose ancestors had led the assault on Earth, approached a human observer at a memorial ceremony on a former Krell colony world. "Why do you still hate us?" the child asked. None alive today participated in the war against humans. The observer, an aging veteran with extensive cybernetic implants, looked down at the Krell child. For a moment, something flickered behind his artificial eyes, perhaps a memory of his own childhood on Earth, before the skies burned. "We don't hate you," he finally said. "Hate requires energy, engagement. What we feel is something colder, something that doesn't need to be fed or maintained." "Will it ever end?" the child asked. The human observer looked up at the monument, a perfect holographic recreation of the Sydney Opera House as it existed before its destruction. "Perhaps," he said, "someday, when enough generations have passed, when humanity remembers not just what was done to us, but who we were before, when we can look at species like yours and see something other than enemies who haven't attacked yet." He turned away from the child, gazing up at the night sky, where human ships moved between the stars like predators patrolling their territory. "Until then, consider yourselves fortunate. You get to live with our shadow across your worlds." The alternative was to join the extinct species you helped create. Humanity, as it once was, trusting, hopeful, merciful. Across the galaxy, alien civilizations continue to develop, to trade, to exist, always with one eye on the stars, always listening for the approaching sound of human ships. Their nightmares were no longer creatures of ancient mythology or evolutionary memory. Their nightmares wore human faces, carried human weapons, and remembered human worlds turned to ash. And the galaxy learned what humans had always known throughout their violent history on Earth. Sometimes the most dangerous predator isn't the strongest or the fastest. It's the one with nothing left to lose. The one that remembers. The one that changes itself to ensure survival at any cost. The one that refuses to die when all logic says it should.